What's up, everybody? Welcome. It is Sunday afternoon. If you are watching us live on YouTube, the Niners game has 3 minutes left in it. And barring a comeback from 34-7, they're going to fall to 0-1 in the preseason. I'm Guy. Who cares? I'm Guy. That's John. Johnny Mountains, live from Tahoe. And looks like a twin bed there. And good tan going, fresh off a Sea-Doo. And what's up, everybody? Welcome. A lot to talk about after the first Niner preseason game.
Yeah, well, once we had McDaniels throwing red challenge flags with 8 minutes left of a blowout preseason game, I knew it was time to fire this bad boy up.
Should mention here where I am in the Bay Area, I had the option to watch both the Niners broadcast and the Raiders broadcast. John only got his hometown Raider broadcast in Tahoe. So we both saw both ends of the television analysis today.
I'll say this for the Raiders. Millen, probably past his prime. Gannon's not bad. Like, Gannon is just insightful, knows quarterback play. Just talked a lot about all the, there was two quarterbacks playing in the first half. One sure looked a lot better than the other guy. And I'm not watching much Purdue football, but geez, I talk about one guy outplaying the other dude.
I remember when Aiden O'Connell. Remember Jack Plummer, who was Cal's quarterback last year, was pretty good like 2 years ago early, and then Aiden O'Connell took his job and obviously had a good career at Purdue. Before we go any further, let's tell you that much like John's trip to Tahoe, we are sponsored by Tito's. Tito's handmade vodka. No matter how you want to pour it, I'm sure John had it on the course. I had it post-round out at Moraga. Thanks to my buddy Ryan who took me out there. On Friday, John, a little Tito's and soda on the guy who hit the hole in one. So I didn't have to pay. So that was a beautiful thing. But Tito's, you got it with the ginger beer. You got it with the John Daly. You got it with the lemon and water. You got so many other options.
I had way too many Tito's the last 2 days mixed with a lot of other stuff. But I'm feeling good, so I can't recommend them enough. Everywhere I go, Tito's. It's not just when you order Tito's, you see other people ordering Tito's. It's like you're all part of the same crew. And it's just hard to beat it. Can't recommend them enough. And glad to have them as a sponsor again. We love these guys.
Yeah, Team Ham. That's the team you're on. Send us pictures. Keep tagging us in photos of you enjoying your Tito's. All right, John, preseason game number 1. Before we get to it, big news from the weekend. The Ravens won their 24th preseason game in a row. So congratulations to the Ravens. That is an NFL record.
Harbaugh just refuses to lose. Niners were a 4-point favorite in this game. Didn't cover.
At one point I heard Papa say, the Raiders fans that are here are celebrating, even though it's just a preseason game. Like, all right. They get their ass kicked. They're allowed to celebrate. They're kicking ass today.
A lot of buzz in the broadcasting circle text chains that you're a part of Greg Papa being banned from practice. Not quite, just wasn't allowed to cross field and just had to do with the other media. He doesn't quite get the same access. Greg, I saw this KNBR posted something of Lund getting his back, calling it basically Bush League bullshit. And when I first saw the initial 20 seconds, I'm like, they did not let Greg on the facility. They're still that petty. And Lund was like, 20 years, this guy was a loyal employee. And he just wasn't allowed to cross the field, just like Matt Milk or whatever. So I don't feel as bad. I was hoping when I first saw it that he was banned, but that's clearly not what actually happened.
Yeah, I don't think that's what happened at all. You were the one that told me about it. And my first reaction before I saw any of the news was, I bet he just didn't get the access that he gets at Niners practice, where he gets basically the John Lynch, Adam Peters access. So
I would say his Raider access in its prime was better than the Niner access he currently gets. It was unprecedented access. He's like an owner.
He was almost the GM.
Yeah.
He told us that. Al almost made him the GM of the Raiders.
Yeah, but you remember how he just worked on the field like he'd be in the huddle.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible.
I don't care what you do. When you go from in any industry that you're working in, the equivalent of being into the huddle and then removed, it's hard, right? Ideally, you just, as your career goes, you get closer and closer to the huddle. You don't get into the huddle and then getting removed from the huddle, right?
Yeah. That's why players have a tough adjustment. Like if you played pro sports and aren't rich enough to fly private the rest of your life, tough adjustment.
Yeah,
that's tough adjustment. That's you go into broadcasting, work for the team, fly on the team plane. All right, John, let's get into it. Trey Lance got the start today. So far, I'm 2 for 2 on quarterback predictions this preseason. 2 weeks ago, predicted Brock wouldn't play in this game. That's not a big prediction. Beginning of the week, I predicted Trey would get the start today for a variety of reasons. One just being he's been the guy there. It's easy. You don't make any waves if you're Kyle. No one even gets to talk about it as a story. You try to put that QB on a pedestal maybe a little bit too. His first game since he got hurt last year against the Seahawks. And it was actually kind of like what we've seen in practice where he starts slow, picks it up a little bit. It started very slowly. And he made some good throws before the end of the thing, threw a touchdown that was incredible for the wrong reasons, but it was a touchdown. In the end, Middlekoff, the GFF scoring, that is my PFF grading. It's a 0 to 2 scale, 0, negative 0.5, positive 0.5, negative 1, positive 1, so forth. I'm showing my scoring here, John. For those of you listening to the podcast, you can go to the YouTube channel to see this, but a negative 0.5, so almost a 0 grade, 11 good throws. Those are 0 graded throws or better, 4 bad throws, including a negative 1 for the touchdown. 73% of his throws were good throws, 15 total throws graded here by Guy Football Focus. So, there's the work. I can show it to you, but I think everybody watching, it was pretty clear that it was not Trey Lance's best day.
It was terrible. I mean, I thought he was horrendous. He looked slow. He looked overwhelmed. And when there was time, indecisive. That was one thing. Being forced to watch this Gannon broadcast, Gannon is a pro, right? He's not Millen saying we. Gannon really is acting more like he's doing a CBS. And he's just like, you can't miss that throw. And there were a couple times when Gannon's like, you got to get rid of the ball. You got to, he kind of, it was like he was having a slow trigger finger, but then he wouldn't even pull it. It was like, he kind of saw it and then he hesitated in his mind. And it was like, you don't have to be Rich Gannon, Al Davis, or Bill Walsh sitting on your couch to go, God, you could separate the plays where it looked like you and I were playing guard and getting overwhelmed. Like, okay, you're going to get sacked. Yeah. And then there were just plays that like, what the fuck just happened there with Trey? And I think I was watching it here with multiple people and
all Raider fans.
Yeah. Goes, God, he looks slow running. He looks slow, heavy footed.
He did not look quick. I thought heavy footed too. I didn't think he looked good moving, but again, that's secondary to throwing the ball.
Yeah. To me, it gets back to his hesitation. It's like the confidence early on, like that first series when it like didn't really happen. And then it kind of like, does it spiral in his head? And then he gets like second guessing himself and it just looked a little off. And then the one drive where Kyle busted out the basic Shanahan plays, the little dump offs, got a little momentum. But to me, the two most glaring plays beside even the shitty ones where he's pulling the trigger, he hit multiple players in stride on the other team.
Yeah, well, he had the negative throw to start that end of the first half when they drove the ball 60 yards in 28 seconds, but he almost got picked off by the linebacker to start. There's a few things, right? The offensive line that they rolled out there was bad. Jason Poe started a left guard. Like, this is nowhere near their starting offensive line.
Guy. That's that argument. That's fucking
no, I'm just but it happened. Like, that was real. He was getting swarmed, right? And then it is his first game back since he broke his ankle against the Seahawks. Like, I allow for a little bit of rust. Some of the throws he didn't make, though, were similar to the throws that he hasn't made in training camp. And it was interesting. Papa says the first throw Darnold made, he goes, that's the same play the Niners ran the first play for Lance. He just got the ball out quick. Like, there were a couple throws. Trey looks left. He's under pressure. Charlie Warner's open, doesn't throw it, eventually has to get out of the pocket. So he did get swarmed a couple times, but man, he was holding on to the ball a lot. And, you could argue bad O-line and first game back, but I don't think you could argue that it was good, right? Like, we could debate how much of it was his fault and how much wasn't, but I don't think there's really any debate about whether it was good or not. It wasn't a positive day.
Yeah, to me,
it was a positive day in the sense that he's going to get to do it. Like, next week, he's going to get some more snaps, and we'll see if it's better. But
yeah, to me, his discussion is like a macro. Like, I just don't. I feel even stronger where I was leading up to this. Sam Darnold did not play the second half. He played a quarter. Like, I don't see how you come away with that and thinking like that guy has any shot to be the second quarterback.
All right, so that takes us to your point. Like, if he was playing behind a bad O-line, so was Sam Darnold, right?
Worse.
Sam Darnold's day. Here's Sam Darnold's day by GFF scoring. The Niners hit a go ball, John. I never thought I'd see it again, but the Niners did hit one. He threw it. It was a beautiful pass to Ronnie Bell down the sideline. It was all good throws for Sam Darnold. 7 good throws. I gave him a minus 0.5 throw for the last throw of his performance. There was nobody in the area. It was 3rd and 7. Might have been a miscommunication. Might have been a throwaway. I'm not positive it was a bad throw, but I scored it as 1. But he made a lot of plus throws. He made 4 plus throws today. In all, a +2 final grade for Darnold. 88% of his throws, 7 out of the 8, were good throws. And it just looked crisp, right? It looked right away like he was in sync.
Well, you just look at, I guess, at the end, right, what the Cal quarterback came in. But let's just take the 3 quarterbacks, right? Trey, O'Connell, and Sam. 2 of them look like NFL quarterbacks. The other guy looked like a guy kind of really battling. Like, if you just zero emotion to it, didn't know the guys, you'd go, hey, O'Connell, he just looks good. Like, that's what it's supposed to look like. Backups, 4th rounder. If I'm the Raiders, I'm very, very happy. Like, that couldn't have gone any better, right? They had Max Crosby on. He's like, this kid's been balling in practice. Someone tweeted at me, I guess Jim Miller in the NFL radio was there like last week. And I guess he said, he's like, these guys have been raving about this kid. And when I was there in practice, he was crushing it. Like, my takeaway really is like, Jimmy better stay pretty dialed here. I mean, that's their guy. And then Sam, it's just, there's a crispness to the way they play. It doesn't mean every play is perfect. And with Trey, maybe because we look at him from like the dual threat, it's like, well, I don't really get the running element. The wobbles came back. And then the pick that is just the most embarrassing pick that can happen. The baby zone trying to do too much. Like, that's when you have a quote unquote playmaker. I'm not saying Trey's really that you gotta get some of that, right? Josh Allen, Mahomes, they try to make that play. Kyle hates it, but I can live with, in theory, like, the one where the middle linebacker is literally just sitting there. Like, that's mid-season when you're making fun of like the 30th best quarterback in the NFL. Like, it's like, this is a joke.
He's throwing that pick in practice. The linebacker just sitting there pick.
Joke play. Like, that's the type play where it's like, I could never trust you being the second quarterback because you're one play away from having to go in against the Steelers in the second quarter. Like, I can't. I don't know how anyone who's just like independent, right? You don't really have a horse in this race, leaves that game going like, yeah, I could see Kyle trusting this guy in a game against the Steelers or the Seahawks right early on in the season.
Yeah, I mean, well, and put another way, John, if you only watched the first preseason game of the season, you'd say Sam Darnold's the better quarterback based on his 8 throws versus Trey's 15, right? You just say Sam is more likely to be the backup quarterback after you watch that. To me, there was one thing for each quarterback. That's a big question. Can Brock protect the ball? Can Trey be consistent? And can Darnold get the ball out of his hands quickly? He really struggles with it. I don't know if you saw the PFF stat I found the other day. Darnold last year held the ball for more than 2.5 seconds on 71% of his dropbacks, which was the highest percentage in the NFL. He holds the ball more than anybody. And his completion percentage drops by 20% when you get past 2.5 seconds. Well, today he got the ball out pretty quick. And Trey was not consistent, right? Like, when you go back and look at Trey's day, there are flash plays. The scramble play where he kind of moves around and gets it to Snead, that's an athletic play, right? That's a smart play. He avoids a sack and gets it out to the right sideline to Charlie Warner. That was a nice throw. A couple throws over the middle. He made that kind of like middle hole shot throw to Conley, which is a classic 49ers throw. If you go to Niners practice, all 3 guys are making that throw all day long, right? It kind of opens up and you just fire that sucker to the hash as the receiver comes across. That's a good throw like that. And he put it right on the money with velocity. But the consistency is what has been that is the number one battle for him. And today was, to put it kindly, if you're going to put it kindly, you'd say he did not accomplish the goal of being consistent today, right? If you're going to just not even just put it in like the plainest non-inflammatory language, you say if the goal was consistency, he did not accomplish consistency today.
I think he's definitely more comfortable when he can move left or right and he doesn't necessarily have to like think, right? And the play is just there and he just kind of gets to use his talent, his arm. Right.
Well, that's Darnold today get the ball out. Like, it's the Kyle thing. You get the ball out.
But there are just plays. It's unavoidable, even in this offense, which depending on the game, you're winning or losing. You got to win from within the pocket. And I would say within the pocket, he doesn't look comfortable at all. Like, he's hesitant looking. And like you said, there's rust, but that's just not his area of where he's going to shine. And I just look at a guy. I mean, we're talking about a third-string quarterback. And I understand that over the next month, he's going to be, I'll guess he'll be one of the biggest topics tomorrow in the NFL, right? If you just turn on First Take or Coward or whoever.
Especially because that game just happened. Was that game on, I assume that game was on NFL Network today?
Yeah. It was on NFL Network. And his plays are going viral. I see PFF guys like, God, this is a god-awful throw. Like, McAfee's tweeting about Sam Darnold's dime down the side. It's going to be a heavy topic tomorrow. Anyone that talks about football just nationally is going to discuss this guy. And he's going to continue to get discussed. One takeaway I also had, I would give him every fucking rep the next 2 games. What do I need to see from Sam Darnold? Like, he's got 55 starts. Like, Kyle already had his mind made up, I think, before training camp started. I would give every rep to Trey Lance. Every single
because he needs them.
Yeah, it just what's the point, of any of this? Because you're not going to make him. Do you agree? Like, do you see?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean,
I'm saying, do you agree that you feel much more confident going like, yeah, Sam's going to be the number 2 after just watching that and know the way Kyle operates?
I think Sam Darnold is closer to being the number 2 quarterback than he was 3 hours ago. Yeah.
Like, much closer, right?
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing coming out of the training camp practices was I thought out of OTAs, Trey was kind of ahead of Sam. And then, as I've said multiple times, I think it's been pretty even. But I think, like, in their mind, Sam's been ahead of Trey in training camp. So now we finally got a game, which is what we've been talking about. We need to see Trey Lance play games. And in the game, it was you would just have to fundamentally grade it better for Sam today. I tested better, graded better.
God, he hit 2 Raiders in the chest with footballs. Right? They were dropped, but he hit them in stride. It wasn't like that would have been a great play by, if Charles Woodson was there, he could have made that pick. It was like hit guys in the fucking chest. I mean, really, really bad. Guys broke with ease. It wasn't even like they kind of had to dive, right? I mean, the linebacker catches it. Who knows? I don't know his angle, whether he's taking it to the house. I mean, the pick in the end zone just would have been really sweet for that guy. He wouldn't have gone far, but
right.
Those plays, and this is where I've always argued about the numbers on a daily basis, because like when you watch a game, right? Like week 1 happens and Kenny Pickett is 20 or 30, a touchdown and 2 picks and birdies, whatever. Like, those numbers are real. All these numbers, like, they're not, like, every number is not real.
Right.
And those 2 plays, I just know the way these coaches think. And we all know the way now Kyle operates, I think outweigh any good stuff, like, by a wide margin.
I would say I would add to it the throw that he missed to Dwelly in the flat was he just got to make that throw, right?
Where he airmailed him.
Yeah. That's happened a lot in camp where the ball it hasn't been catchable, right? It wasn't a bad pass behind him. It was not a catchable ball.
And don't you think part of this offense, they run a lot of like plays like that they know are 6-yard gain, but in their mind, it's like, that's the run
100%.
play almost. Like, it's just a scheme. Like, if that's first down, it's then 2nd and 3.
Right. It's you just call the play, then you move on. Now, I mean, Jimmy, like, people miss those throws, but again, this goes back to this has been part of what has happened in training camp with him is he's missed that specific throw.
Well, this gets back to I was just thinking when you were talking earlier, it is pretty nuts, and I understand why it has to be talked about because it is the story. We're talking about a Super Bowl contending team. And the conversation surrounding the team, 98% of it is about the backup quarterback. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Now, it makes sense when you really talk it out and but think about that.
I also think what did you say, 90%? Is that what you said?
I'd say like 98.
98%. The other 2% is a pretty big, whatever the percent, like Brock Purdy is the other topic, and that's a pretty big topic too, because even though he's the starting quarterback, we're all kind of waiting to see, like, what is he really over a full season? Because the thought crossed my mind today was, that Sam Darnold, not the Sam Darnold that played 55 games, but that Sam Darnold, Kyle Shanahan might consider putting that guy in a game if Brock Purdy's not playing well, right? Like, he would play that guy if that's who Kyle thinks he is.
Well, we were talking about when we were watching the game, if Trey last year hadn't gotten injured, but they started, he wasn't getting 17 games, but the ship was not going to go down with Trey Lance, right? He would have gone to the bullpen if they were 2-4 or – I don't even know. Like, there's no guarantee he wouldn't have gone. Like,
well, John, if you remember the way we were talking, like it did. Now maybe the way we're talking isn't necessarily the barometer, but at the time it felt like, coming off that Bears game, like how long is the leash was a big conversation we were having last year. Remember? Like how long is the leash? Like that was a real conversation. Now maybe it wasn't in Kyle's head, but I think it was a conversation in Kyle's head.
Well, here's the other thing. And I understand a huge part of football in general is practice. But what makes training camp so much different than the regular season is the media gets no access to practice. And practice in the regular season is about like specific opponents, right? You're making up plays, you're game planning, you're like doing things specifically on that week. But no one really talks about the week of until like after the game when they guys come out and say, well, on Thursday we implemented this play where Trent comes in motion. But during the week, where in training camp, especially like the first 3 weeks, is all just practicing your own shit, kind of, right? You just if you're a quarterback, you're just implementing the offense, you're running those plays and trying to perfect them. But like after what you're doing it against the same players every day, and you know your team scheme, so it kind of can get redundant, and it's hard to take away tangible things. It's why I think coaches would say these joint practices are so big, because you get new players and you just get a new random scheme potentially that you like clearly not game planning for, but it's a good look. And then the game is even a different, because even in practice, right? If I'm doing an 11-on-11 drill, Trey, Sam, whoever is doing that drill, they have the practice script. They're like, hey, we know we're on the second, we're going to run this play. They might not know what they're going to do on defense, but it's scripted. There's not really scripts in the game, right? Maybe your first couple plays, but then
your first 20 plays are on a script, but you may not call them in that order.
Yeah, a flag happens. You're not going to call that run play on 1st and 20. And it just
Kyle makes them 50-50 run pass just so everyone's engaged.
But like you agree, like you've gone to countless of these practices over the last couple of weeks, and there's a lot to take away because you can judge like how this guy's improved. But the game is like in a different universe, and we even say the preseason games are nothing even like the regular season games, but they do give you a look like, yeah, your right tackle might just get smoked. Like that's football, right? Or your guy might trip and you have to look to the other play. Like that's why I think coaches and people in football always say this is why you practice, because you don't actually know what's coming, but it puts you in the best position to then execute when shit is hitting the fan. But some guys and this is what you see with Trey, he's not a great ad-libber. And maybe part of that is he's not as fast as I thought. That's well established.
You're saying what plays are you talking about when you say that? Like getting out of the pocket from pressure?
I'm just saying
once the reads are over, what does he do next?
Yeah.
Kind of get stuck sometimes.
I just feel like he's just not that good. Like that's my takeaway. He's just not that good. Like, I watch that guy and I go, think about we'll remove Brandon Allen. You just go Darnold, who's started forever, right? And just has a ton of reps and just looked comfortable coming in the second half of a game, which is kind of crazy when you think about this guy was probably turning down lock backup jobs to kind of come in here and compete. I give him a lot of respect for that because Kyle's, I think, making him some wink promises and just looks completely confident. The dude, Purdue kid, played a bunch the last couple of years against half his games, right? They're not as good as Iowa, Michigan, Ohio State. So he's a lot like Purdy he just looked like confident and calm and normal. Like they look like real NFL quarterback. I'm not saying like Aiden O'Connell is going to go on to be a top 10 player, but he looks like that's what it's supposed to look like in his situation. 4th round, feel very good. Sam felt very comfortable. Trey,
I would say it's not what he's supposed. I thought he looked better than what it's supposed. I mean,
Sam. Well, I'm more.
No, O'Connell. I'm saying if you just watch rookie quarterbacks this weekend, it doesn't look that good.
He looked good. He looked like, is he good enough? Is he a backup quarterback week 1? Like I wonder if they already have
their other quarterback.
Hoyer.
Yeah.
So, but my point is, like Trey's not as good in the game as those guys, and we all know that the game, especially in guys like his situation, has a weighted importance. Here's the other thing: I got texts from buddies on different teams that have don't give a fuck, right? If you work for the Giants or the Eagles or whatever, you're just flipping on at your house or maybe at the office. Trey's in the back. He's not going to be on your team. You don't care. And just like, Jesus, that didn't look good. That's the other thing. The league is watching him.
Well, so there goes your trade possibilities.
Well, it would right now. They practiced for a couple days and they obviously just played the game. Is there clearly money and contract factor? If that was just in a vacuum money, they all made the same money. Would the Raiders trade the Purdue kid for Trey Lance right now?
No, but Kyle would.
Yeah. Well, like how fast would the Raiders, if you just said straight up Trey Lance for O'Connell. How do they say no within a second? Like this is real. Like this is how these people talk. Like there is no doubt that Josh and Ziegler tomorrow bullshitting at some point in time. Like I take O'Connell in a heartbeat over that kid, right? These are the conversations. What are they talking about?
The game. Well, what do we talk about all the time? The games, right? Forget about practice. The games.
And preseason games matter for the backups. That's how Purdy got put on the map last year.
Well, I saw I guess Jeff Schwartz said something the other day, and then I saw Kurt Warner today made a comment like, people think like the preseason doesn't matter. I've never been more nervous in my life than my first preseason game. It mattered to me. Like it was my job on the line, right? So we laugh about it, but fuck, Deshaun Jameson was out there acting like his career was on the line today, right?
How did Jordan Mason make the team last year? Make plays in preseason.
Yeah. Not good. I mean, if we did the horse race, Sam Darnold's ahead, and he might have already been. But
now, granted, it's hard preseason game. Do you think it's telling at all that he got yanked when he was told he was getting the whole half, the 2 halves, and he just gets yanked?
Who got? Wait, what?
Well, I just had assumed, maybe I had read it wrong, that like Trey got the first half, this guy got the second half, and the guy got pulled.
No, Papa said at the beginning of the game, like Darnold, we may see some Brandon Allen at the end.
Okay.
You're saying it was one of those cows like, I've seen all I need to see. Get him off the field.
Well, I had assumed coming into the game half-half.
Yeah. I don't think it was. Now, next week, it'll be interesting. Like, does Purdy play next week? And what do you do? Or does Darnold get next week and then Purdy finally plays in the third preseason game? How do teams?
I mean, Andy's playing Mahomes today. So
yeah, I know. Andy's a bad. We always go to Andy. Couple comments here.
Carr played today. I mean, some teams.
Yeah, he did.
I'm cool with not playing any of these dudes all the preseason. Like I'm good with that.
Well, if you're going to play that offensive line, then Brock Purdy shouldn't play.
No, I'd argue like if Trent is not playing, then my starting quarterback's not playing.
Yeah,
that's be my gauge.
Ira said, I think the O-line contributed to his indecision. I agree. There's no doubt. I'm sure it did. But even with that aside, it was just like the coach puts you out there and says, perform or don't perform. That's kind of how these go, right? Most of these guys, we've all watched Hard Knocks. For people without third overall quarterback draft in their history, you get a play or two to make your impact, right? And he got 15 throws today, and they were inconsistent.
But like, think about it. You're all O-line, you get lit up on a play. O'Connell did a couple times, and the next play he just looked normal. There's like to me, when I watch him, there's like a tension in his body. He just looks tense.
You think he loosened up a little?
I mean, just like the basic little dump off plays. Like I don't give him any credit on those. Just like I wouldn't give Purdy.
No, those are zero throws.
That's a fucking layup. He hit a nice play, but I just don't think he's that good. I just don't think he's that good. When I watch today, I don't see a really good player. Like I don't see a guy that I would trust in a game when my team's good. If I was the fucking Colts or whoever, like whatever, we'll just take a year, get a trial period. This guy's a trial period quarterback, and this team ain't trial period operation.
No,
so
never have been, and it's going the wrong direction. It felt like after today.
Yeah.
A couple comments here. This is from Michael. $5. Is it safe to say Lance is a bust? Why are Bay Area media members so afraid to say it? He just flat out didn't work for us. Can we get any draft picks? I don't have much interest in like, why won't anybody ask the question? I saw somebody from NFL.com was like, why aren't they asking Shanahan if Purdy's the starter or who's starting this preseason game? Like, I have no interest in that, but they drafted a quarterback 30. He's not their starting quarterback. That's absolutely that's a bust situation. Can he work his way back? That's TBD, but they drafted a guy third overall.
The only reason
can he be there? Can he be their backup? Can he be in a position where if their starter gets hurt, he has a chance to earn the job back? Like Brock Purdy's without question the starter. He is not without question their franchise quarterback. So can you hang around long enough to get another opportunity is what I mean by can you work your way back, right? But right now.
I think it's very, very fair to say if week 1 comes and it's official, Purdy, Darnold, Lance is on the team and the third stringer, that pick is an absolute disaster. Now, the situation is not a disaster because they somehow avoided their team still sweet.
With some
luck, didn't
luck,
sink the ship.
Right.
But that individual pick, it's impossible any other way to say it, is a disaster pick, right? It's pretty crazy.
Yes.
I had this thought the other day when Zach Wilson. I wonder if there have ever been 2 top 5 quarterbacks, really 2 top 3 quarterbacks. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, obviously 2 and 3, going into their 3rd year, still on that same team, and backups, and just not even starting after they already got the opportunity to start.
It's like Rosen didn't make it to year 3 at his plot. Darnold didn't make it to his year 3. Did Baker make it to year 3?
He did, but he was still starting.
Oh, okay, yeah. Did Baker make it to year 3?
Yeah, starting.
God, and that was a disaster.
Yeah, so
like the Baker pick was a disaster. Obviously, team in a different spot, but
it's just it's crazy.
Gray Fox gave us $10 to say O-line was trash, but Lance looks slow, no zip on his speed or in his passes. He's supposed to have a cannon. What's up with that? I thought Darnold's arm looks the strongest, doesn't it?
Yeah. Doesn't he look like a better athlete too, when moving around a little quicker?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't do much of it, right? Because the ball comes out, but
he ran around on one play. I thought he was moving pretty good.
Yeah, I do think he moves well.
The one thing Gannon hit on this, he said, no one's ever disputed his physical characteristics. He's like, I've called his games for years, being around. People like the guy. People root for Sam Darnold that are around him, teammates of him. He's like, he just had historic turnovers. 55 starts, 70+ turnovers, ton of picks. He's like, they believe that they can corral that. Kyle believes in them, but like the talent's there, right? It's just the turnovers. They just, I mean, what was Trey? A baby's own turnover, and it turned into the fucking touchdown. But like, that's devastating, right? And that's his margin for error on that. Like, oh, Jimmy had him too. Yeah, but Jimmy was the starting quarterback and didn't have to worry about it. Like, starting quarterbacks have issues. Brock's going to have some issues. He's a starting quarterback, right? Trey has his margin for error.
Well, yeah, when you get 600 pass attempts, then it all gets to kind of shake itself out. Trey does not get that luxury. He has not gotten that luxury to this point. Definitely partly not his fault. Partly is his fault, right? But he doesn't get 600 pass attempts to work the whole thing out. You got to show you can be consistent in chunks of 15. And in practice.
I haven't watched that much preseason football the last couple of days. I mean, I've seen some clips here and there.
I haven't either.
I would imagine.
I did watch George Pickens score a sweet touchdown for the.
Just a lot of poor play.
Yeah.
Right. And I would just lump Trey Lance like you watch today. There is not a market for services of any value, right? We've all watched enough preseason football over the years to know, like, you can't do that.
You couldn't trade a 4th-round pick for what we saw today without your owner going, are you sure? A 4th.
I don't
like Rand Carthen couldn't bring him into Mike Vrabel's team, and Mike would go for anything more than a 6th or 7th round pick.
Yeah, to me, that's like his value right now.
I think for Kyle, we can agree or disagree, but I think for Kyle, deciding what to do with this, I think right now it's trending towards being a tough decision for him based on just what we saw today and what clearly he told us he thinks of Brandon Allen. We don't get rid of players we like. He said that.
Oh, so is Mike Silver's take alive?
Well, I just financially, I don't know. I don't think you can cut him. So my point, what I'm saying is, I think Kyle, it's going to hurt him to cut Brandon Allen, but he's going to have to do it.
See, this is the thing.
But it's going to hurt him. Like, he's not going to like doing it.
When you got equity and Kyle starts,
that's just how I feel today.
Here's what I would say. I the one pass I saw before I walked down here was Allen hit Ronnie in the hands, pick, right?
Yeah.
Nice pass. Look good. Is that Kyle has proven this now, right? His equity with Jed York is very, very high, right? He's the playoff wins, the value of the franchise, the relevance he's brought back to an owner now facing some insider trading allegations.
Yeah, you sent me that one the other day.
But if he wants to keep Brandon Allen and it means Trey Lance has to go, I'll promise you this. Trey Lance is gone. He ain't I'm not saying it makes sense financially to do it, but they will just get rid of him for a conditional 7th, right? They will pawn him off to keep their guy. And even if they have to eat some money, so ultimately it saves them money relative to cutting.
Right.
But if you think that, like, I'm not saying you, but just people in general, there are going to be articles and people talking about this over the next couple of weeks. If he wants Brandon Allen to be his 3rd quarterback and doesn't feel very good about Trey Lance will not be on this team.
Yeah,
if he wants to.
It's a good point. He won't cut him, but he'll trade him for he'll do a 7th round swap.
My point is he has the equity now to do, like, that 20-year stretch would be like,
yeah,
Belichick did what? Like, Kyle will do that. That's why it's not on. Obviously, they would have a lot of egg on their face, but like the books, the dead cap, maybe midseason, there's a player they could trade for, but they didn't have it because that extra $5 million kicks into the cap, right? If you cut them, it goes from like 9 to 15 or 14. But it's all on the table. Like, he's not worried about like what article is going to be written about him or what someone's going to say about him on a fucking YouTube channel. He doesn't give a fuck.
No. Should we move on to the other big topic of the day?
Shankopotamus?
Kyle should be calling Robbie Gould today, says Jibbisum86. Hey, big head. 40-yard yank, 58-yard push. Jake Moody, who the Niners really want us to know is a 4th-round pick, not a 3rd-round pick.
God, it doesn't matter.
This is what I was terrified of, John, for him. Not because I think 2 kicks in the first preseason game tell us everything we need to know about a kicker, but because kicker pressure just mounts extremely fast. And maybe I'm contributing to it by talking about it, right? Maybe we all are, but that's part of the gig. In the biggest pressure situations, the playoffs, his predecessor, Robbie Gould, never missed. So the long way to go. Jake Moody's the guy. But when he missed in practice, he would yank left, which is what he did on the 40-yarder. Missing from 58, a little more forgivable, pushed it to the right. Hopefully next week he'll split one down the middle. Even his extra point was moving a little left. I don't know if you caught that one.
The 58-year, the duck hook that you said that he had in practice at times, that's an ugly watch. But when you push it and you miss it by what feels like an extra goalpost, it's pretty glaring. That was
the 58-yard kick.
I mean, guy, he could have hit, like, you could have put 2 goalposts over to the side and it would have gone through the middle of it. And the Raiders, who, what's Carlson? I don't know how you rank kickers, but he's clearly one of the better guys. Come in, no sweat, boom, right? You're like, that's just what it's supposed to look like, right? You just feel good about a kicker. And now Moody, he's already behind the 8 ball. It's already a talking point. I don't know if Papa said this, but this is when we watching Raider broadcast. Millen's like he never even went in at halftime because he missed it. He just kept kicking at half. Like, that was concerning.
Coleman on the stream.
Kyle said, stay out here and figure shit out.
Coleman on the stream says it was indoors. Wind wasn't even a factor. Yeah.
Do you know the hard part about being
good kickoffs, though, John? Good kickoffs.
The hard part about being a kicker, unlike Trey's a good example. When you get drafted high, and a kicker, a 3rd-round pick or 4th-round pick is the equivalent of being like a high pick for a position player. Everyone roots for you, right? They want it. They try to make excuses for you. People already come on edge with special team guys. They're like, what's the fucking this Jake Moody guy? Right. And then he starts missing kicks and people are already – it's easy to make the Robbie Gould joke, but he has another preseason game where he does this again, a hook and a miss. Hey, this gets back to the Belichick thing. Their margin for error – they're trying to win a Super Bowl.
Right. Without an elite franchise, without a tier 1 quarterback.
Without a tier 1 quarterback. Where they have really relied on, because they just play in a lot of close games, at least they did with Jimmy, because they weren't, until Purdy came in, winning a lot of games 38-20. The kicker mattered a lot, right, in Shanahan's 3 successful seasons. And I'm not even talking game winners. I'm just saying throughout the game, throughout the big games. And
they played in a lot of games that came down to the last play, it felt like.
That feels like that. If Trey's the number 1 story where Kyle's like, God, this didn't go as well as I hoped, Moody would have to be right up there of like, I do not want to have to deal with this.
Right. Because Kyle told us already when he drafted Wisnowski, he wants to never scout special teams and not have to think about it. Because the kicker is something you don't want to think about. Like with a kicker, you know this because you play a lot of golf, but I love the stories. A buddy of mine was playing, what was it? Shane Vereen, who you and I have played golf with. He had like his club tournament where it was like 2-on-2 or 3-on-3, whatever.
It's like the member probably.
And at some club in Denver. And I was like, they were like, he was in like the Sweet 16. I was like, how'd it go? He's like, we got our ass kicked by 2 old guys. I'm like, what do? They just hit it down as you know, old man game. You just hit it down the middle. And that was Robbie. Like old man game tortoise or the hare will eventually get you right to the finish line where you want to be. And it applies to kickers too, right? Like you'd rather have a kicker. Most coaches, I think, would rather have a kicker who from 40 yards in, they don't even have to worry about. They just know from 46, we got to go for it or we're punting. But hey, I got a good defense in a run game, so I don't care, right? That's ultimately like you just want no drama. You want a reliable vehicle out of your kicker. And We'll see.
You can make fun of the Raiders for a lot of things. Not today. They look good. But I'm saying in general. When they roll out Carlson, you just feel like it's going in.
Yeah, he's a good kicker.
Yeah, he's just one of the kicker. He's just a good kicker.
If you said he was the Niners quarterback, you'd go, okay, don't have to worry about it. Not Justin Tucker, but whatever. Not Legatron, whatever the nickname was. But
when you have these kicker issues too, he kind of died down a little bit, I feel. Like people living and dying with the kicks. I do think this week, every time he kicks, it'll be, he'll get the quarterback treatment.
You talking about in practice or in the game?
I'm talking about in practice.
Yeah.
I kind of stopped paying attention. He starts drilling kicks. Like, who even cares? Yeah, it's like, oh, he's fine. He's a kicker.
Great. Yeah. You don't even want to talk. We don't want to be talking about it.
I also think just saying that out loud, the stats, I do think for a lot of casual people that were like following it, and how would you not? Like, if you follow the Niners, everyone you talk to, like, what's the quarterback situation? You look online, you get the numbers. It does show you that it just doesn't really matter. And I've been saying this forever. Those numbers in practice for the quarterbacks,
I'm with you.
It just don't.
I've seen it. It makes no sense. I appreciate the guys that do it, but
good for their business, but it just doesn't actually result in anything.
No, doesn't matter at all. So much context. Gardner says, all right, we're going to talk about Clelin Ferrell's sack. Yeah, I mean, play today. Other things we saw today, John. Clelin Ferrell sack.
If he's good and he has like 8-9 sacks this year, that will be the second Raiders busty D line that they've turned into a player.
Arden Key. Yeah, that was good.
I thought Ferrell stunk, and then when I'm watching with the Niners, I'm like, I kind of like this guy.
Well, I watch him like his bot, like he just kind of fit. Like when you watch him, he almost
was he a starter? Is he going to start next to Bosa?
Yeah, well, it's him or Drake Jackson. It's starting at the other defensive end spot.
Well, isn't Jackson hurt?
Yeah. So it's probably Clelin Ferrell. Anything else? A couple other things. Kickoff returns. Deshaun Jameson, 2 kickoff returns, 1 punt return, all really impressive. Penalties on each one, but
I like that guy.
Yeah, he looked good. Undrafted rookie out of Texas. Played DB. Ronnie Bell made some play.
That Buck Mason and Ty Davis Price are clearly going to play a lot this season.
Yeah.
But they just who else are the running backs? They're not going to play McCaffrey. What's his name's always injured, so you can't play him. So
Elijah.
Those guys basically just treated it like it's week 2. They just got all the carries.
Too many carries, John, for those guys. They need another running back.
Ty Davis, he did truck a DB coming downhill.
Ronnie Bell made a couple nice plays. Also had the drop, but he's just got a lot of opportunity. Danny Gray's a guy that honestly, I don't know. I'd like to see play in this time. I'd like to see Danny Gray play in one of these games, even if it's like he doesn't he needs to play and get snaps and try to make some plays because Ronnie Bell's out there making plays. Cameron Latu, the fumble, hasn't been practicing great. That was a 4th-round pick. So of your 4th-round picks today, Aiden O'Connell outplayed Moody and Latu for the Niners. Jair Brown, my theory was, needs to play in a game because he wants to hit people. And he does kind of have that. He had a hit early in the game on maybe one of the Raiders' tight ends. Well, he was already kind of down on the ground. And I've said in a complimentary way, Brown gives me some Dre Greenlaw vibes, just like kind of borderline. He doesn't hit people in practice like Dre Greenlaw does, but that's a good thing out of a safety. So I thought it was more of the same kind of just Brown looks like he wants to scrap, wants to hit somebody. And you just hope that, you don't end up with 2 of those guys on the offensive line playing at the same time this year, I think.
It's funny when you watch the Raiders broadcast, I just realized they didn't show they showed the Raiders sideline the whole time.
They did or they didn't?
Like Trent Williams and McCaffrey and all those. I never saw any of those guys.
They didn't really show them on the Niners broadcast either. They showed Kittle at the end. They did show Jimmy. It did cross my mind. Alyssa's like, is Jimmy there today? I was like, yeah. And then I'm like, is he? Maybe he's not. Hold on.
He was there. He was in the hat.
Yeah, he was there.
They do a player interview during the game?
They interviewed Eric Armstead. Vern on the sideline interviewed Eric Armstead. And Kyle Juszczyk got the interview. I think that was it.
How's Tim Ryan's hair looking?
T-Rock?
Yeah.
Look good. A lot of T-Rock drops. So, all right. There's our reaction. First preseason game. There you go. Instant reaction. Practice.
They did lose about 7 guys the last couple of days.
God.
Hamstrings, abductors.
I think it was an adductor.
Adductor for Kittle. I mean, Kittle's legitimately hurt, right? I mean, he's not. If this was a game, he's out.
Was it? Is it that bad?
Well, I thought I said a week.
Yeah. But a week, like a practice week or like a real game week? You know,
I guess we'll find out.
They get Monday. Max got an interview on Raiders TV, John.
Yeah, Crosby got one. It feels like Josh got to him. It was a lot of cliches. For a guy with a big personality, whenever I watch him, I just think, God, I wish he was on the Niners with Bosa. That'd be fun. Because he had a comment, I think, this week during the joint practices, like, I'm just tired of losing. Like, I work too hard. You know, he's been 3 years sober now. He's like, I do all this to try to win. And I was just thinking, like, you're probably the wrong place, bro. Not even trying to be me, but it's just history shows us. He just wants to make the playoffs. I'm like, 2 times, 22 years.
If Garoppolo goes to the AFC Championship game, will he finally get his respect? That's the real question. History tells us Jimmy plays in championship games, John.
True.
Niners.
Do you think that they? I know it's been going viral because Aiden's mustache, like he looks like a guy playing Derek Carr in a movie. Did they give his jersey away too fast, or is that fair game? I mean,
I thought did he wear 4 in college?
Derek or this kid?
Aiden O'Connell.
I don't remember him in college at all.
Purdue, a lot of Big Ten football. Or 16.
Do you think they gave it away too fast?
It feels like a shot. Yeah.
To the guy they just drafted, he just gets his jersey. The guy had been your 9-year starting quarterback, spoke for your team as you moved, yet you had to stay in the place and play. Most bizarre thing we've ever seen.
Because you set him up
to give away his jersey to a 4th rounder.
You set him up to have his jersey do the thing where like they put tape over the name and write the other guy's name in Sharpie, and that's just disrespectful, you know. But that's what he got set up for.
Well, don't you think there are definitely, especially if this kid plays, you'll see a lot of that on the internet this year. Don't you think? If like O'Connell's a starting quarterback for him,
I think Jimmy, you know, one game overreaction, Jimmy's job is in jeopardy.
I just thought, you know, for a guy, blood, sweat, equity, shattered his ankle for you, led you to the playoffs for the first time in like 15 years. Just give away his jersey really quick.
I'm with you. Ruthless. It felt too soon. You're not going to retire it, but you can't give away to a quarterback who kind of looks like him when his face doesn't, but when he jogs on the field, you're like, is that? It crossed my mind for a split second today.
Yeah, you could argue like 10, right? Ronnie Bell. Different position. Like, I don't even think it's that weird. Like if like the punter was wearing 4 or whatever, be like, yeah, you run out of numbers, training camp, not that weird. The quarterback just gets 4, and like you said, it'd be one thing if he retired his number at Purdue, their greatest quarterback ever since Drew Brees, wore 4. I'd go, okay, I kind of understand. No, not even his number.
I think the Niners gave 10 to 2 guys. I think Zane Gonzalez wears 10 too.
Yeah, sometimes you just run out of numbers. I get it. And it doesn't bother me like Ronnie Bell. And I'm not saying Jimmy, it's weird. Jimmy, in theory, should have more equity than Carr, but what Carr had to deal with off the field is unlike anything, you know, most people have ever seen that have played football in the pros. But yeah, I thought, you know,
so you think Darnold couldn't, if you thought if they gave Darnold 10, that would have felt disrespectful, or would have felt?
Yeah, I would say like, especially if 10's like not his number.
But even Jimmy would to me, Jimmy wouldn't care if you gave 10 away, right? Like Derek said, I want to be a Raider for life. I'll retire before I play for somebody else.
And he'd been wearing that number since he was like 6.
And like you said, the organization was a disaster. He was a good representative. He was the face of the whole thing.
I thought it was pretty ruthless. The kid's good. No one will even care.
Yeah. All right. Niners off Monday. They practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then they play the Broncos on Saturday. Story of the week will be, is Brock Purdy going to play in that game or not? If not, then you figure Darnold's going to start it. And that competition continues for another week.
Hayner threw a touchdown.
Did he? What is he wearing 4?
I did. I just went to the box score.
George Pickens had a nice touchdown Friday, whatever day. I don't know.
So Tomlin's playing starters.
I watched it on NFL Plus.
Who threw the ball? Kenny?
Yeah, did Pickett play? I just saw the end of the highlight. It was like Pickens, and I looked up, and he was running in for a touchdown. So let me see real quick. I'll tell you.
I would guess. I think Tomlin plays starters. Would be my guess.
Pickett, yeah, 6 of 10.
Pick or just touchdown?
Touchdown pass. Nope, no pick.
Who's their backup quarterback?
Mason Rudolph. They also have Tanner Morgan, the guy from Minnesota, and Mitchell Trubisky. Did you see the play the Trevor Lawrence lookalike guy made in Jacksonville?
Play of the year?
What's his name? Rourke? I don't know. Where's he from?
Never heard of him.
Andre says, when is Bosa coming back? I'd say we're a week away from like really asking that question, right? Going into the last preseason game.
Yeah, not a lot of urgency, it feels like, by anyone.
Doesn't feel like it, but I think we're not far off. I mean, John Lynch said he wants him back 3 weeks. So,
yeah.
But you want to keep him out of these games. Who cares, right? You don't want
to
need Nick Bosa playing. All right. Very good. Thanks for hanging, everybody. Have a great week. A lot coming up, and we'll talk to you soon. Adios.